What's up everyone, Alex here. So you're probably thinking to yourself as you're watching this video, okay Alex, why are you covering a Polish free-to-play MMO? Because you mostly cover Japanese games and JRPGs. Well, to answer that question, I actually have 3 points that I wanted to make. First and foremost, I cover a lot of JRPGs because I just love the genre, but that doesn't mean that that's the only type of RPG that I love. Second of all, I have this passion for trying out new games, and if somebody approaches me to try out their game, then I'm gonna try to check it out as best as I could. And the last part, and I think this is actually rather important, is that I will never, ever cover any game that I'm not interested in on this channel at all. So the fact that Broken Ranks, and yes, they have sponsored me for this video, managed to pass all those checkpoints means that there's something special about this game that you might want to know. And after playing through so many hours of Broken Ranks up until this point, I actually found that there are a lot of really good aspects from both JRPGs and Western RPGs that are in this game. And with the announcement of the Shadow of Hope update, with its continuation of the main story and tons more content to add, it's made me curious as to the higher level experiences that this game offers. And before I get into the video proper, and I know this is putting the cart before the horse, if you enter the code Backlog Battle when you register your account, you'll actually get 7 free days of premium membership. And honestly, in my opinion, if you're playing any sort of free-to-play game, having an advantage like this is really, really good. So remember, enter the code Backlog Battle, get 7 days of free premium membership, and enjoy. Okay, all that aside, let's start talking about the game. Because this is a free-to-play MMO, you're only in charge of your character. So naturally, you have to choose the gender of your character and which class you want to play as. I've always thought of myself as a brute force kind of player, so I created a female barbarian to try out the game. And to me, what struck me about this game is that it feels like old school Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale from the 90s, where its world is depicted in this beautiful and gorgeous 2D isometric view that takes me back to that era. I think one of the crazy things about games of this type is the amount of interactions that you can do at one time. Like, you can talk to almost everybody in the game, you can interact with several different merchants, so it's not like JRPGs where there's a set single merchant for weapons and whatnot. You can talk to a variety of different people, get a variety of different information, making the game feel more alive as a result. And that says a lot because back in the day, when Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale and Planescape Torment was around, that kind of world building was never seen before, and this is something that I really actually appreciate in Broken Ranks. The game is also set in this low fantasy atmosphere that is dark and brooding and almost hopeless, but there are moments of levity in the game that really kind of break up all this seriousness that permeates the entire adventure. I remember doing several side quests in the very beginning of the game that had like really kooky stories. Like, for example, there's this one lady by this port who started hearing ghosts in a well. And mind you, there's no voice acting in the game. But I did the quest and I found the ghosts and found out that they needed booze. So I got the booze, and I actually found out that the lady who gave me the quest actually has a husband who she deeply missed and just disappeared. And of course, I did the side quests only to find out that the ghosts aren't actually ghosts and that they're a bunch of drunkards, one of which was actually the husband of that woman who gave me the side quest. And I actually had a choice every single time when I'm interacting with these people. Like, I could have just condemned both of them, or I could help the husband reunite with his wife. And so I took that route, and that's when I kind of realized that I just love how kooky that story was. It's very simple, but it says a lot about the care that the developers have with building this world. And again, it reminds me of Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale, with their well-written and non-linear storylines where your choices actually matter. The amount of artistry that is involved with making the many characters, the locations, and the maps in this game is absolutely gorgeous. Now, up until this point, I've only talked about the Western RPG aspects of Broken Ranks. And if you've ever played Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale or Planescape Torment, typically battles are a mix of tactical RPG goodness with your typical Dungeons and Dragons shenanigans. So what if I told you that the turn-based gameplay of Broken Ranks is actually heavily inspired by Japanese RPGs? Because when you engage in turn-based combat, it takes you to a different screen that is very reminiscent of games like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, where you have a line of heroes on the left side and villains on the right, and they all each alternately take turns until an entire party is defeated. What's fascinating about Broken Ranks is that it has this stamina system that's built in that makes things a bit more complicated. Simply put, you have combos on the bottom that allow you to assign different abilities on it. In other words, one turn doesn't necessarily have to be like all melee attacks. It can be a mix of melee attacks, range, or even magic if you so wish. And in order to increase your hit rate or improve your damage, you have these little pips that you gotta spend and distribute amongst different parts of your combos. You do something similar with defense as well, dividing your defensive points between melee, ranged, and magical attacks. And you gotta be careful because every single ability that you use in this game has stamina, and if you run out of stamina, well, guess what? You can't take any turns. I remember within the first hour of this game, I noticed that my stamina wasn't going up in between every single battle. That's when I noticed that the game actually wants you to rest, like literally like hit a rest button, to replenish your health, magic, and stamina. Now, this is interesting because this is an old school MMO mechanic. When I played Final Fantasy XI, that's pretty much how you got all your stats up, which does increase downtime in between battles. But if you're really good with battles, you don't have to deal with that a lot of the time. And of course, you can concoct potions as well so that you can replenish all your health and magic and stamina. So you can use that to propel you along forward into the adventure. So you're probably thinking to yourself, because this is a sponsored video, I can't talk about any sort of personal criticisms in the game. And to be quite honest, I do have some criticisms, some valid ones in my opinion. My biggest criticism probably has something to do with the UI, because while the gameplay pretty much speaks for itself, the time limit that you have to input all the different commands for your specific character, if you're not using the presets, actually takes quite a bit of time, so you're always racing with your mouse cursor to try to get as much of your setup done as possible. And I kind of get that, because when you're engaging in turn-based combat and you get paired up with other players, because guess what, you only control one character, they don't want everybody to just wait forever. I totally get it. But in this case, like, I was hoping that there would be an easier way to set these abilities and the associated points as quickly as possible, maybe using keyboard shortcuts. Maybe even a gamepad in the future if the developers are going to support it. Because as someone who plays console games primarily, my mouse clicking and dragging skills aren't up to par for games of this type. So, that was pretty much like the most difficult part of the game for me. That being said though, being able to preset all of these commands is pretty easy to do outside of battle, so I do appreciate that. Although I would like more presets available, please, at some point. I know that they'll eventually get unlocked, but still, 2 is a bit harsh, don't you think, especially early on? Criticism aside though, the turn-based combat is so fascinating to me, because I don't think I've ever played a game where you gotta spend points to enhance specific parts of your combo and be able to mix and match ranged, magical, and physical attacks in the same combo string. I could tell that this is a developer that has a lot of inspirations beyond what they played in the West, and I really do appreciate the work that they put in here to reflect those passions. In all of the sessions that I played this game, as soon as I sat down and experienced the story, I just wanted to see what's next, and I just can't believe that this is a free-to-play MMO and we can just play it to our heart's content. I actually snooped around in the game and found out that the highest level that anybody could ever have is level 140, and given that I'm only like within the first 10, that's so overwhelming to me. Overall, I really liked my experience with Broken Ranks, and I still can't believe that it is a free-to-play MMO with a pretty good story, actually, and turn-based gameplay that I'm really interested in digging deep when I find more time for it. At any rate, I want to give special thanks to you for watching me talk about Broken Ranks, and of course the developers of Broken Ranks for sponsoring this video. And if you're really curious about the game, make sure that you enter Backlog Battle as you're registering to get 7 days of premium membership and get ahead in the game really early on. And this code, this 7-day premium membership, is going to be great for your initial experience. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. and I'll see you in the next video.